everyone. I'm Angela Kirky. I'm Director of Education at PPA. And on this segment of In It Together, we get a chance to chat with Brant Menswar. Now, typically, I don't read their bios, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about my own experience with Brant here in just a minute. But I want to read his because he's done so many amazing, amazing things. He was recently selected as one of the country's top 10 motivational speakers. He's a critically acclaimed author, award-winning musician, podcast host, and the CEO and founder of Rockstar Impact, which is a boutique agency that teaches people and organizations how to cultivate values-based leadership. So yeah, that's all amazing. That's all wonderful.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. But Brant has also spoken for us at Imaging USA. Our audience absolutely adored him. He is a giver. He is a person who is an encourager. He leads people to a path of hope. And I am just so excited to get to introduce those of you who don't know him already today. Brant, thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much. I have to say right up front, a huge thank you to one of my best buds, Jeffrey Shaw, to open the door to this organization and you and all the wonderful people who work there. I am forever indebted to him, and he lets me know that on a regular basis of how amazing the organization is, and it was him who opened the door for me. So I will forever be in his debt.
Yeah, he was so helpful. The very first year that we brought the Gap track to Imaging USA, we were so excited because it's all about entrepreneurship. It's about bridging the gap between photographers and their consumers and helping you see yourselves as entrepreneurs and really building that skill set. And Jeffrey was so helpful as we were going down that road and finding the right people to bring messages from outside of the industry. And so, yeah, we're forever in his debt as well for just opening the door to so many fantastic people like you. So thank you. Thanks for joining me today to have this conversation. We're, this whole series was kind of started in the middle or the beginning of things happening in COVID and stay at home and all of that stuff. And we really wanted to connect photographers at a level to know that, we are in this together and we're going to get through this together, right? And so just bringing messages of hope and encouragement is a huge part of this. So Brant, let's talk a little bit. You had a book when you spoke for us at Imaging, Rock and Roll with It, which was fantastic, and everyone loved it and loved the message of that book. And now you have a new book coming out, but I Black Sheep. So I really want to just go back for a second and talk about the first book so that we can then, kind of talk about the differences and what the second book is going to bring to everyone.
Sure. So the first book, Rock and Roll with It, Overcoming the Challenge of Change. It is all about the two types of change that we face regularly. And that's the change we want to make. I'm losing 20 pounds, right? That's the change we want. At least that's the change I want to make, especially 6 or 7 months into COVID. That number's climbing every month. But so that is why the camera is from here up. And I'm trying to get the best angle to take away a couple of these chins. By the time this is over, my goatee is going to be down to the middle of my chest. But so sometimes it's the change we want to make, and other times it's the change we're forced to take. What happens when change is forced on us? What happens when a global pandemic happens and we don't have a say in it? It just is. And so that's what the book is all about. The first book was about how do we approach each, because they're different, right? When you're sort of being intentional with something and you want something to happen, that's much different than something being forced on you that you didn't ask for. And so that first book really sort of looks at those two different things using two specific examples. Myself and my co-author, Jim Trick, who is a super successful life coach up in Marblehead, Massachusetts. He is amazing. If you get a chance to check his stuff out, you should. But Jim, intentionally lost 200 pounds twice because he screwed it up the first time. And so that is one type of change. And the other was, some of you know my story with my son Theo and his battle with cancer. And that was unexpected and unasked for. And so how do you approach those things to make sure that you come out on the other side with something that is a result that at least you can live with at worst, I hope. Sometimes it's difficult, but that sort of birthed this new book, that I'm super excited about as well.
And that book is coming out September 29th, right?
We are, yes. I mean, we're literally a couple weeks away. My cheeks hurt as I'm just smiling. It's like I've waited so long. It's one of those things, in the music business, when you're going to release a record, you finish the record. It takes a year from finishing the record to the record being out.
Mm.
So there's a long time in there. So I'm sort of used to that. But, I finished this book in December. And so it's
Oh,
just
wow.
been like, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. And then global pandemic happens and it's like, uh-oh, now what? And so it's presented some really interesting challenges. But fortunately, the book talks about defining what matters most in your life. And because I've done that work, because I know what my flock of five black sheep values are, I've been able to handle the craziness that has been what life looks like for the last 6 or 7 months.
Yeah, but I feel like it's coming out at the exact perfect time. You and I have talked a little bit about what Black Sheep is about, which is what we're going to share with our audience today. But
Yeah.
I don't think it could have come at a better time. I feel like people need this message now more than ever. And so, this is going to be this is good. It's good stuff.
It's one of those things that you never want to say, gosh, global pandemic's the best time for my book to come out. but,
Right? But
we were laughing before this and we were joking that, when this first started, everyone was like, gosh, it's the gift of time. It's the gift of time. Be thankful for all the time you get with your loved ones. And 7 months later, we're like, all right, I need to get out of the house. I'm going to go lay in the grass out in the backyard in a tent or something because I'm done with the gift of time. I don't want the gift of time anymore. And so it is funny, but you know what? Here's the thing. What are you doing with the gift of time, right? That's the real question. And what I would hope you would think about is defining the things that matter most, because it's going to matter as we come out of this, as we sort of step back into what the new world is going to look like here in the next year. If you have these things defined, you're going to be able to navigate your re-entry into the world with deliberate intention. And that is such a competitive advantage, no matter where you are or what you do, that
I love what you just
it,
said. Navigate your entry into the world with intention.
yeah,
That that's strong. That's really, really strong right now because I do think people are taking a minute to reevaluate.
yeah,
And sometimes we just need guidance on how to rethink things, right?
yeah,
And so, can we talk about your book and some of the things that
sure.
the messages in there, uh,
Yeah.
and the premise behind it?
So let's talk about Black Sheep. Oh, I just had to do that. I'm sorry. Look, if you give me toys, I'm playing with toys, and that is what happens when people give me that. So yes, the book actually right here it is. This is the final hard copy. There, look at that spot UV black, that metallic paint. So I am thrilled as a fellow artist. I care about how things look, and this has been a journey. So this book is really, the full title is Black Sheep Unleash the Extraordinary, Awe-Inspiring, Undiscovered You. And what I have found, Angela, over the last couple of years, I am a self-professed control freak of like the highest level. And one of the most difficult things I've ever had to admit to myself was that I was winging it. I couldn't tell you what my non-negotiables were. What are those deeply held personal core values that simply will not change? What are those 5 or 6 things? And when I realized that I had to define these things in my life, it was right about that time that I actually discovered why farmers don't value black sheep like the rest of the flock. I was 47 years old before I found out why farmers don't value black sheep. We've demonized black sheep for hundreds of years. So I'm thinking, I don't know, there's got to be some
Right.
crazy reason for it. And when I found out that the reason that farmers don't value black sheep is because a black sheep's wool cannot be dyed. So a black sheep is in effect 100% authentically original. So I find that out and I start to go, First of all, I'm blown away because I know people who have felt like I've felt like a black sheep for some of my life, and we sort of say, oh gosh, these are the ones who are sort of put off to the side, or they're excommunicated, or they're, they're when I was in high school, it was the goth kids, or the punk rockers who were listening to crazy music or whatever that was. And when I started to do research for the book, I found that there were just as many people who were so successful at what they did that they sort of separated themselves from the pack. And in a way, they sort of made themselves black sheep because of their success. And so as I dug in a little bit deeper, I sat there and went, my whole goal in life is to be 100% authentically original. Like that is it. That's a life well lived if I can achieve that. And
Yeah.
so I started to frame this new book in this idea that we all possess what I call a flock of five black sheep values. These are values that are non-negotiable, deeply held since the time that you were born, that simply, no matter how much someone wants to twist it or change you or influence you, they simply will not be moved. And if we can identify what those are, that's the very beginning of being able to make good decisions, of being able to live a life of fulfillment. And it begins with the discovery of what those non-negotiables actually are. And that's what the book guides you to, is how do you find your flock? How do you prove that they're yours? Because what you're going to find is that many of us are caring for other people's sheep.
Oh,
And it could be by design, that you're caring for a elderly parent. Maybe you're caring for some siblings. Maybe you're a single parent and having to do double duty on a couple different things. And then once you sort of prove that these are actually your sheep, how do you speak them into existence? How do you feed them with deliberate intention every day of your life? How do you program them into your calendar? And so the book walks you through the whole process. You got to find yours, you got to prove that they're yours, and then you've got to speak them into existence, choosing when and where they appear in your life.
I have so many questions. I have so many questions for you.
Yes,
One of the
good.
first things that I'm thinking of is, that old adage that people say that you become like the five people you spend the most time with.
Mhm.
That concept, right? And so there, to me, there's something in that that says, okay, I need to make some choices. I admire this person, and this person. I want to be more like that. Does that play into any of this, like figuring yourself out thing?
I know you don't know this, but it's actually in the book.
Is it really?
It really is in the book.
I mean, that was
So,
the first
so in the book, I talk about an interview that we did on the podcast. So Thoughts That Rock, that I host with Jim Knight. Um, Last year, we interviewed Don Yeager. Don Yeager is an 11-time New York Times bestselling author, associate editor of Sports Illustrated, an amazing man who has lived an amazing life. And he had the opportunity to be mentored by John Wooden for a decade. This is one of the ultimate gurus. Coach Wooden from UCLA, who's won more championships than I have fingers. And one of the things that Coach Wooden said to him when we ask in our podcast, we ask, what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given? That's it. And then how did it change your life? And the best piece of advice he ever got was from Coach Wooden, who said, if you want to know the potential for your success, look at your inner circle. And that is the five people you spend the most amount of time with. And if they are not headed where you're headed, then they can't be in that circle. And that can be a very difficult conversation, right? Some of those people are family. Some of those people have been with you a long time. But sometimes the people who get you where you are not the people to take you where you want to go. And that is a very difficult crossroads for most entrepreneurs,
yeah.
is that figuring out that is the case is a painful experience. And it doesn't mean that these people disappear from your life. It just means that you reallocate the time given to those relationships in other directions. So they're still part of your life. You're still going to be with them in certain circumstances, but you can't devote the amount of time to that relationship that you have up to this point. So I like to think of our flock of five as our sort of our inner circle, and then the people that we spend the most amount of time with as our outer circle. And so both of those things together really help you define what your potential is. And that's been a journey I've been on for a couple of years, is redefining who is in my sort of flock of five outer circle of the people I spend the most amount of time with, and are they headed in the same direction I am? And then sometimes the answer was yes, and sometimes the answer was no. And so that sort of 5-person circle that I surround myself with has changed quite a bit over the last couple of years.
So do you think that that's something that's always evolving,
Yeah.
or yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. For the people, yes. For your values, no. Your values rarely change outside of a catastrophic event in your life. Those core values have been developed since the day you were born. And so these aren't things that just come and go. People think your purpose changes, right? I hear that a lot. Well, my purpose has changed as I've gotten older. No, that's a bunch of baloney. Our purpose doesn't change, right? What changes is how we honor the things that matter most, but our what, which are our values, and our why, which is our purpose, are static. They stay the same.
That's so interesting. I was just talking to someone. I feel like we're all right now having these conversations about, what's important to you, what's important to you.
Yeah.
How are you letting go in your life right now, things that aren't serving you, and how are you adding new things in that are, which again, your book is so on point with, I think, the conversation of our world right now.
Yeah.
Um, uh, but there's this whole, one of the conversations that I was having recently, kind of trying to understand what is that, right? And so I've heard someone say, and I wish I could remember where I heard it, I can tell you what you value if you show me your calendar and your checkbook or your bank account statement. Checkbooks, that's kind of who uses a check anymore. But
Right.
but right, like if you, whatever you're giving your time and your money to are really what is defining your values. And I feel like we're questioning a lot of that stuff right now.
Yeah, no question. So for me, I had that sort of aha moment a couple of years ago, and I've talked about this at Imaging. I met a woman named Paula Zuccotti, who's a very successful photographer from overseas, and she's an ethnographer as well, and a sort of a product development specialist and branding specialist. And she had written this book called Everything We Touch, and she did this sort of photography project in a book, which I have over there, that is, she sort of followed around 61 different people, all different ages, races, religions, sexual orientation, sort of the whole gamut, and documented everything they touched from the moment they woke up to the moment they went to bed. And at the end of the day, she'd take all those objects and she'd put them in one photograph per person. And so I can show you this. So look at, so here is an example of 24 hours in the day of this person. So if you look, you can see they get up, it's in chronological order from the top left to the bottom right. So they get up, they got their little bunny slippers on, right? They're going to do a little bit of, it looks like yoga to me, have a little breakfast. I'm going to assume this is a lady, but I'm not exactly, it's 2020, not exactly sure. But we're going to move down and we're going to go across. You see they're creative. They're doing some filming. They're a musician. They end the day with a little snack there, you can see as well. But as I sort of went through these things and looked myself as she's doing this presentation, I started to have like this panic attack, because I asked myself, if somebody followed me around for 24 hours, would they see any evidence at all of my black sheep values? And then that was 2 years ago. And at the time, the answer was maybe at best. And that's when I realized that's the difference between being intentional
Mm-hmm.
and living with deliberate intention. Deliberate intention requires you to speak something into existence, choosing when and where it appears, not just knowing your destination, because knowing your destination is never going to get it done. I know where I want to be. You got a lot of the photographers who know where they want to be, either financially with their business, or the sort of the accolades they want to receive, or the places that they want to move to. They want to teach, they want to work, they want to express their art in a specific way. That's not going to get it done until you start acting with deliberate intention, until you start speaking these values into existence on a daily basis, because it's your unique contribution to the world. And if you don't figure this stuff out, and this is something that I said at my talk Actually, it's in the book as well. The story's in the book. And one of my big moments that I had at imaging was being able to look at 1,000 photographers in the room and say, if you have not defined these things in your life, you have never taken an original photograph. And that was like right? It's a pretty bold statement. But the truth is, if these things are not evident in the work that you do, you're only giving me a reflection of what matters to other people. And so you can take the things that you're inspired by, you can do all those things, but until you go, no, 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 my values are, so my flock of five: creativity, hope, impact, empathy, family, authenticity, right? I have 6. I'm a rock star. We do everything to excess. So, right, I needed an extra. But for me, those things are evident in every song I write. They're evident in every talk I give. They're evident in every virtual session I do. And I mean, it's why I literally have it tattooed on my arm, because it's a reminder to me to say, if I'm not leading with these things, then no one's ever going to really see me. They're only going to see a reflection of what matters to everybody else around me. And that's never going to get me anyone's first look. And that's really the goal.
So many things. I could talk to you for
I just
days
gave
on
this. I'm such a jerk. I just gave myself goosebumps. I am such a jerk. How bad is that? That you get, I swear, the swagger and ego right here is out of control. It is out of control. I can't believe that. That is funny.
That is so again, so as you're talking, and I can't wait to read this book. I've already pre-ordered it on Amazon. I'm waiting for my copy to get to me, because I talk to a lot of photographers throughout the year, and one of the challenges that faces them is everyone feels like everyone's a photographer. How am I different? What makes me unique? You know what? I can't charge appropriately because Sally Joe down the road is charging this, and therefore I can't charge anymore because we do the same thing. And so this is so exciting because you are giving them a roadmap to figure out what their voice is.
Yes.
Help them determine their style and what they're putting out in the world, because that is what's different. It's not that you use a different lighting or a different camera or setting or whatever. It's who are you in this world? How are you showing up, and how are you connecting to people and sharing your gift and seeing them, right? So go.
Yeah, right. No, so you're describing the music business, right? Why would Joe's bar down the street pay your band $1,500 to come play for a night when they've got Johnny Three Fingers and the Two-Step Shuffle who will play for a 6-pack of Pabst Blue Ribbon? It is a different. That's the scenario, right? Hey, I'm a photographer. Well, I've got the latest filters. So I'm technically a photographer, right? This phone has made me a quality photographer. And I get that that's what everybody faces, right? And the more that sort of technology can only take somebody so far, okay? They can't insert values. Technology is never going to insert values into anything, right? So that's on you. That's what's going to separate you. The interesting thing is the people that I would challenge in different walks of life, the people who have really figured this stuff out. You don't need to have somebody tell you that that's their photograph. That's their photograph, right? You look at it and you go, oh, I know who took that. I can look at a Frank Lloyd Wright house and go, oh, I know that's a Frank Lloyd Wright house. And that's because we are witnessing those black sheep values that are in everything they do, right? That's what defines them. And the people who get that, they're at a different level. They're succeeding at a different level. And they get everybody's first look because they're standing out from the 495 other things that look exactly the same. And as a photographer, I get it. I mean, you can, I laugh all the time. You can't just put your name, and if you're not old enough, you won't get this joke, but you can't just make it A plus photography and expect to get the business because you showed up first in the phone book. Okay. That is not going to get it done. There was a time that that would get it done, but not today. And so you have to actually lead with what makes you unique, with what makes you authentically original. And that comes from discovering these things. And I've been so fortunate to meet so many of the photographers over the last couple of years that have come up to me and said, gosh, I heard you 2 years ago and it changed the way I approach the business. And now I've got so many people contacting me because the content that I'm creating actually possesses the things that matter most to me. And I'm getting calls from people to go, that's what I want. That's what I want. And when you do that, there is no competition because there's nobody like you. There's nobody like you. And so if you can get those things out and expressed in an authentic way, then the business will always be there. It will find you if you put it out there with deliberate intention.
So tell me about this concept. You've said it a couple of times, and I know it's in our description. First look. What does that mean?
Okay. So this is when I get into something, I dive like both feet head first and to a fault. And when I started sort of this journey of, I knew I wanted to write a book called Black Sheep. And so I started to really study about what are all the different things about black sheep, what's the history of black sheep. And what I found out was this. So for hundreds of years, we have been sort of realized or sold this story of sort of demonizing black sheep and feeling like you are not part of the crowd, and it's somehow being a black sheep is a bad thing. As I went further, even though farmers don't value black sheep the same way that they value the rest of the flock because their wool can't be dyed, they certainly do value them just in a different way. So sheep farmers keep black sheep as markers. So for every 100 white sheep in their care, they keep one black sheep. And so what does that mean? That means every morning that a sheep farmer gets up and looks out over the flock, if they've got 500 sheep in their care, they should see 5 black sheep. And the reason they keep those black sheep is because of their ability to stand out from the crowd. What makes them authentically original gets the farmer's first look every morning. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
If they don't see 5 black sheep, they know something is wrong. It's wolves, it's famine, it's disease, it's whatever it is. But when they look and they go, oh gosh, I only see 4, they know something is wrong. How long do you think it would take if they're trying to keep track of 500 white sheep that look exactly the same? How many sheep are going to disappear, get, die, go missing, whatever it is, before they understand that there's a problem? It could be a ton before they realize that it's a problem. So these 5 black sheep, by getting the farmer's first look, really allows them to focus and not have to worry about the 495 other things that look exactly the same. So the premise of the book is, if you can lead with those black sheep values, then you're going to get everybody's first look. And there can be 495 other photographers standing right next to you, and no one is looking at them. They're looking at you because you're leading with those things that make you authentically original.
I just want to drop the mic.
Yes.
That's it. Yes.
Yes. That's ultimately it. I know I am a recovering rock star. So I know my ego is out of control. Okay. I know that, but I want to be everybody's first look. I want to be everybody's first look. I want to be my family's first look. I want to be my friend's first look. I want to be where I work's first look. I want to be your first look. I want, when you have something that you got, we can't risk this. We have to have somebody come in and knock it out of the park. I want to be that guy. And so I try to do everything I can so that when you think of me, you think of those black sheep values that make me uniquely who I am, so that if it's the right thing or not, because you're going to get exactly what you're going to get when you call me, right? And so in that way, there are just too many people who just don't do the work. They don't do the work, or they do just enough work to think they know what their black sheep values are.
Yeah.
But that's really where things got interesting, right? So what I have found out over the last couple of years, and I've done this with literally thousands of people at this point. When you So I'm sure everyone's like, oh, how do I find mine? How do I find mine? Shut up and tell me how I find my black sheep values. So there's a couple of different ways. One of them is you can go to my website, which is just findyourblacksheep.com. There's an assessment that is the sort of a step one, right? So it's a shallow dive into the values pool. And so what it does is it presents you with 125 commonly held core values. And it says, what I want you to do is I want you to just select any one of these that really resonate with you. So you look and you go, accountability, okay, I like that. Achievement, oh, I like that. Empathy, oh, I like that. What we have found is over the last couple of years, the average person selects at least 30 of the 125 words that are really important to them. So what does that mean? That means that you have set yourself up for incredible disappointment because there's no way you're going to be able to honor 30 things on a daily basis, right? If you're like me, you could do 29 of 30 and knock it out of the park. But that one thing that you did not succeed at, you're going, this was an awful day. I mean, you're 29 for 30 and you're like, this day sucked. And that to me is how a lot of people are. And so what it does is it helps you narrow those down. So let's take that 30, that subset of 30, and let's break them into 5 different groups by likeness, by theme almost, right? So you've got empathy and sympathy in one box. You've got achievement and success in another box. You've got community and relationships in another box. And you start to separate these things out. And when you have sort of your 5 boxes, you get to pick what's your one word that you can't live without from each box. And you pull that down and that's your initial flock of 5. So this is what I know for a fact. I have never worked with anyone in the last 2 years with the 5 they started with were the 5 they finished with.
Really?
Never. Not once. Not once.
What changes?
And well, that's because 2 or 3 of them are without a doubt 100% real. You can give me 20 examples for each over the course of your life as to why it's so important to you. And I believe you. But I also know that 2 or 3 of them are absolute BS. They are who you want to be, but they're not who you are, right? They are aspirational sheep. They do not exist. Okay. And this is where the most powerful moments happen for me in this process, because this is what I found, Angela, is that a lot of the people that I work with really, for whatever particular reason, they don't necessarily like themselves all that much. And it's a weird thing. And sometimes the more successful you are, the less you like yourself, right? So my question is always this. For the people who do a shallow dive and they think they've got it figured out. I took the assessment. I know my flock of 5. I've got them right here, right? Well, what we know is that 2 or 3 of them are not real. They're not real. They're aspirational. They're who you think you should be, or who somebody told you should be, but they're not who you are. So what if, and this is the huge question, what if the person you don't like is actually not you? What if what makes these things, that the reasons that you don't like yourself are because you think that these are the things that matter to you, but they're not actually at all. They're somebody else's sheep and they are polluting your flock. And you have to get to what's real so that you understand who you truly are. And I know there are 2 or 3 in everybody's flock before they do this work that just are not theirs. And so they have to do the work to get to, yeah, right? I mean, that literally.
That's paradigm shifting. That's like,
it is.
like life changing.
Yeah.
Turn me upside down, opposite, backwards, and look at something completely, wholly different.
It is the most exciting piece for me when they have that moment, right? When they finally go, oh my gosh, I had no idea that the things I don't actually like about me aren't me at all.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And that to me is like, that's when you start to, so I like to say I'm in the transformation business. That's what I do. Transformation is a big, scary word.
It is.
And
I think it's also what people desire.
I hope you are right. I want to believe that is true. but I would tell you that the state of the world would tell us both that we are aspirational thinkers. The state of the world is rough right now,
Yeah.
and there's never been a more important time to define the things that matter most. And so there'll be some of us who are willing to do the deep dive, and there will be others who choose to just function on pure emotion. And the world will never turn towards the better until we all decide to define these things. And when we do, here's the most incredible thing: when we get to the truth of what matters most, guess what? We share a lot of the same things with everyone, but we never get there because those two or three imposters always pollute what's possible.
Well, you just gave me goosebumps. See, it's just
Yes,
giving you goosebumps.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that this is good stuff. Can we talk? I know we shared earlier that you're going to be doing a 5-week free training on this.
So here's the interesting part, right? And yes, and I am incredibly excited. And it's one of those things that, so sometimes your black sheep can get you into a little bit of trouble, right? And so impact is one of mine, and I care more about impact than pretty much almost anything. Maybe hope. Maybe hope is my at the top of my hierarchy, but beneath hope is impact. And as this is sort of, I'm seeing this incredible rise in what I'm doing, and interest in the book, and me speaking and all those sorts of things that honestly over the last 2 years, that sort of my relationship with you all have been there. My career has really just sort of skyrocketed, and I believe it's because of deliberate intention. I believe it's because I'm speaking these values into existence, and people are noticing me, even though there's 400 or 500 people just like me doing the same thing that I'm doing, but they're not leading with their black sheep values. And so I'm getting people's first look, and I'm going to continue to do that. And I want to teach everyone how to do that. But when you're building a brand, the people who are in charge of my brand are like, stop it. Stop offering things for free. And I can't not, I have to, I care more about the impact than I do about the money. And I always will, always, always, always. So this is what we did. I went out and found some sponsors, because if you're not going to let me do them free, I'll find some sponsors. So we've got Association Chat, who's amazing, and we have Book Thinkers, again, two amazing organizations who are sponsoring this 5-week free live training. So every Thursday in the month of October, you will have a 1-hour live training of going through the book. We're going to have you take the assessment. We're going to find your flock. We're going to break you into some small groups to be able to have people working with, so you know exactly sort of what you have, some accountability in the journey. We are going to prove that these sheep are yours and not somebody else's. And then we're going to teach you not only to speak these into existence with deliberate intention, but we're also going to help you craft a purpose statement for your life. So at the end of 5 weeks, you know exactly what matters most. You have a purpose statement that is in alignment with those things that matter most, and you are starting to speak it into existence. You're programming these values into your day to show up when and where you want them to. I just finished, so this is why I get in trouble. I just finished doing this for 40 people on my book launch team. And at the end of 5 weeks, I had people quit their jobs and take new ones. I had people put these on their website, that they're business owners that say, these are the things that we care about the most. I've had several design clients that were on that journey with me that have said, this is what you get when you hire our firm to design. It has been transformational. I mean, that literally is what it has been. And so for me, this is going to be so powerful.
Yeah, well, it can change the way people speak about themselves and speak about their business. There's something about having confidence in knowing who you are and what you bring to the table. And I think this is just a fantastic way to get that started and get that rooted in really the right way.
Agreed. They can register. I'll send you a link. We'll put it in the
Yeah, we'll
thing
put it
here
in the
as
chat.
well. Super easy. And that is just, there's 2 times. So I'm doing one at 2:00 and one at 7:00. Eastern time to try to accommodate both coasts. And it's going to be such an amazing experience to have people to sort of go on the journey with you and know that they're facing the same things that you're facing.
Yeah, and what a
I,
great way to meet some of those new people that could
yeah,
your, your people moving
n-
forward a little bit, I
no
mean,
question.
it's important to meet those people who have the not same values, but the same thought processes and
Yeah,
are forward thinking and, dynamic in that way too.
100%. Yeah.
I know that we are a little bit over on time, and because I could just talk to you for days.
Mm,
And I appreciate you so much and your time for coming in and sharing with our audience and getting them excited. I encourage all of you guys to take Brant up on this offer and to find your black sheep. This is big. This is big stuff. It's the work that needs to be done. Brant, any other last minute or last thoughts for our
yeah.
audience? As we
I have one that I think is really important, and it's, the world has been turned upside down over the last 6 or 7 months, and many of you have struggled to keep the business afloat and do some things that have forced you to look elsewhere to try to provide for yourself or your families, right? So maybe you have to do something different for now until you can get back to where you can do this full time again. What I want to say is this: even though you're not doing maybe what you think you're supposed to do or what you were made to do, that does not mean that you cannot live a life of fulfillment. What we have to do is take away this fulfillment and happiness away from an outcome or a result.
Mm.
Stop thinking in that way. We don't control outcomes. We only control the deliberate intention that goes into making decisions. So, no matter what you have to do right now to take care of yourself or those you love, as long as what you're doing is feeding your sheep, is honoring those things that matter most, guess what? You're going to go home with a smile on your face every single day, because it's not what you do, it's who you are. And so if we can honor those things, you'll be able to get through this. We can make it to next year or whenever this thing is going to sort of run its course, and we'll find a way to deal with it and manage it in a way to get back to what you used to do for a living. Um, that I think is what's the most important thing right now, is to understand for now is not forever. Stop treating it like it is. And what you have to do for now, what's most important, is that it allows you to honor what matters most to you. And if that does that, then you have made a great decision for yourself and your family. And you'll get back to what you need to do, what you were made to do, as soon as humanly possible.
You give such great advice. I am thrilled for the people who are getting to listen to all of this and who will
Mm,
have an opportunity to spend time with you in October. I again encourage all of you guys to take him up on that. We'll put the link in the chat so that you have that.
you bet.
Brant, thank you so much for joining us. I know we're going to be hearing a lot more from you. We adore you at PPA. We appreciate all of the education and inspiration and hope and encouragement you offer. You offer, everyone.
Thank you. Well, you got, I love you. You guys are your family. And so I am always going to be here to help in any way I can.
You're awesome. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
You bet.
Bye.